Hello, it's Lyndon here and thank you so much for coming to my channel. In today's video I want to take a deep dive into the chords for Autumn Leaves. This is such a fantastic tune. It's really nice to play. And what's lovely about having a look and a decoding of a chord chart is this is kind of infinite. If you learn a melody on the saxophone, that's fantastic and it's lovely to play. But if you understand a chord chart, you can literally spend the rest of your life improving the way that you interpret this chord chart and just getting better and better as a player and looking at constantly new things to do with it. So it's really good fun to do. And I do this with a lot of my clients with my private practice here in the UK in my one-to-one lessons, and people love it. So I want to take a deep dive into the chords for Autumn Leaves. And I also am just blown away with everybody's feedback and the comments and the contacts that I've made. I'm talking to people in Denmark and Norway, and I'm sending the saxophone out to Lindbergh in California, and someone said they're using my tutorials down in Houston in Texas. I can't believe it. It's blown my mind because I've only really been YouTubing, well, I don't want to make it about me, but I've only been YouTubing seriously for about 4 months now, and it's just great. So hello everybody, and thank you for your feedback. And I also want to shout out a very special thank you to Howard Titchler, who's become my first member on Buy Me a Coffee. So let's have a deep dive into the chords for Autumn Leaves. And let's have a look at these first 4 chords. And what we have here is A minor 7, followed by D7, which is then followed by G major, and then we've got a C major after that. So how do we go about interpreting these chords? Well, I want you to go back to my other videos, and if you're not sure about a major 2-5-1, go and have a look, because I've done a much deeper explanation of a 2-5-1, because this structure here, anytime I see something minor 7 followed by something dominant 7, that is going to activate my 2-5-1 alert. And if I can recognize that this is a major 2-5-1, then it takes so much brain work out of being able to interpret these chords and play something pretty through it. Because all I'm really going to think is, this is the 2nd mode of a major scale, this is the 5th mode of a major scale, and then this is the 1st mode of a major scale. So I just have to think G major. Woohoo! So that's really cool. I can play anything within the family of notes of G major through this progression, and it's going to sound really nice. And a good place to start would be the chord tones. And the chord tones of A minor are going to be A, C, E, G and B, and D7 is D, F sharp, A, C and E, and then G major is G, B, D, F sharp and A. So that would sound really nice if I played through the chord tones and just hit the chord tones. It's going to sound lovely. But what I want to do is I want to investigate this C major at the end there, because how does that fit into the picture? And if you saw C major, you would just think, well, C major scale, right? Ionian, the 1st mode of C. And to be honest, that's a pretty good solution. But what we want to do is to have a look at that chord in context of the situation that we find it. So when it's connected to these other chords, there could be another possibility. Now it feels like a bit like being a great detective. You walk into a crime scene, and just by looking around, everybody's like looking for clues, and you just stand there and you just have a look around and you think, I know who did this. And it's because there's some cues there. Maybe they knock over the plants, or maybe they don't knock over the plants, or maybe they mark it in a certain way, but you're looking for clues. And the clue is this C major could be connected to the G major. And in fact, in my opinion, I would interpret that as the 4th mode of G. Now the problem with being a sax player is that you're always thinking about things in terms of scales. So the question that you're asking yourself is, what scale am I supposed to play over this chord? And you don't think about chords sometimes in the same way that a piano player might do. So a piano or guitar player just thinks in terms of root, third, fifth and seventh. That's it. They're not too worried about the notes in between. But as sax players, because we learn scales, you really are. So you want to know what scale fits with that. And the reality is that there's a few things that could possibly fit with it, and in this case, in this context, because this C is followed, because this C is preceded by a G major, it could be the fourth mode of G major. So let me show you what I mean. Here's C major, regular C major, Ionian, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And if we took the root, the 3, the 5, the 7, and we could even take the 9 as well, that would give us C, E, G, B and D. C, E, G, B and D. That's the chord. Now imagine that we had G major, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp and G. And if we took that from C, from the fourth mode, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, the chord tones are the same. Can you see that? C, E, G, B and D. C, E, G, B and D. C, E, G, B and D. Therefore, there is no reason why I can't interpret this chord here as the fourth mode of G major, and that makes my job of improvising through all of this much, much easier. So I'm going to write down the chord tones of C major. C, E, G, B and D. Now I hope that makes sense, and if it doesn't make sense then that's okay, and just comment in the comments below or drop me an email or reach out in some way and I'll explain it further. Now actually, in terms of interpreting these chords and improvising through these chords, my first port of call, which I would always do, is to play the root, and then the root and third, and then the root, third and fifth, then the root, third, fifth and seventh, then the root, third, fifth, seventh, ninth. Sounds such a mouthful when you say it, but it's quite straightforward to do. And then I'd probably reverse those, and then I maybe have a little jam on some of those, so just playing around with some of the chord tones. So let's do that. I've got my fantastic app here, which is iReal Pro. Absolutely brilliant for this kind of practice because I can loop sections of iReal Pro and just work on those. Have it down at a nice sensible tempo. It's not about speed at all. And let's do that. Let's play the root of each one, then the root third like I just described. So let's do it. Sounds really nice, sounds absolutely gorgeous, even just at this kind of still exercisey kind of level. It just sounds really, really beautiful. So this is a fantastic way for you to practice getting the hang of improvising through the chords of Autumn Leaves, and it will just sound really, really nice. I'm going to experiment with one other technique and then we'll move on so I don't make this video too long. And what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to play the A minor through here. So A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G and A, I'm going to play through there like this, through these two chords, and then I'm just going to land on one of the chord tones of the G major, and I'm going to hold that through to this bar here. This bar here I would tend to leave a little bit more empty, and just because, for a few different reasons. In terms of improvisation, I don't want to fill the whole canvas up with paint. You don't need to. You know, you can leave some space. That's absolutely fine. That gives a nice pause. It's like makes it a bit more conversational, and it also gives me time to think about how I'm going to approach the next 4 bars. So that there's lots of good reasons for just leaving that bar open or empty or more empty. So once again, I'm going to run up the scale and I'm going to land on one of the chord tones here. It's going to sound lovely. It's going to sound really, really, really nice. So let's loop this again and hit play. So again, I'm just playing around with the scale of A minor and landing on chord tones. Very, very simple and very beautiful. I could practice like that. I could practice like that for 20 minutes and it would feel like 2 minutes, because it's just fun and beautiful and gorgeous, and you know, I can't see what the downside could possibly be. That's not the only way that you could practice through this. There's an infinite amount of ways, but this is a good way to get started. So that's the first 4 chords and the first 4 bars of Autumn Leaves for alto sax. What about the next 4? The next 4 bars, which has 3 chords on it. And again, I would advise you to go and have a look at the deeper dive video. I'll put a link in the description below for minor 2-5-1s, because that's what we have here. It's a minor 2-5-1, which is a super common structure in loads and loads and loads of jazz tunes, of chord charts for jazz tunes. You're going to see this structure come up all the time. So if you understand it, you'll be okay. And if you don't understand it, it's going to be a completely baffling, what on earth is going on here? So what on earth is going on here is we have a minor 2-5-1, and I've trained myself to recognize that anytime I see this theta sign, the circle with a slash through it, and then followed by a dominant 7th with some sort of chord extension. Those are the cues that I'm looking for to make me think this is probably a minor 2-5-1, because they're all the same structure regardless of whether it's an F sharp and a B, whatever. If you see these 2 types of chords next to each other, extremely high probability, 99.9% chance, it's a minor 2-5, and if it's followed by this E, it's a minor 2-5-1. So if it's followed by a minor chord, I should say. And just to confirm this, if you think about E minor, then F sharp is definitely the 2nd note, and B is definitely the 5th note. Now there's a whole bunch of ways that I can navigate my way through a minor 2-5-1. We could treat this first chord is probably the 7th mode of G, and that would be Locrian. And this 2nd chord, there's a whole bunch of things that we could do over here, because dominant 7th chords offer us loads of possibilities for some more exotic kind of sounds. Like altered scales is a top favorite, and diminished scales is another one, but there's a whole bunch of things that you can do. And over this E minor, this lovely E minor 6, that could be interpreted in a whole bunch of ways as well. What I'm going to do for simplicity is I'm going to take a nice straightforward approach, which by the way is very, very effective and works beautifully well. And there is one scale that fits over this, which is a harmonic minor. And the harmonic minor that I'm going to use is a harmonic minor in E. And the notes are E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D sharp, and E. And that would sound like this. And if I went up to the ninth, that would sound like this. I love the ninth. The ninth is such a beautiful note in my opinion. It just sounds gorgeous. Have a listen. And that's exactly what I'm going to play over these 4 chords. So if I isolate that and hit play, coming down from there, sounds absolutely beautiful. I'm so in love with the harmonic minor. And then if you get comfortable moving around this scale and you can throw it around a little bit, then that is just going to sound so gorgeous and exotic and beautiful, and oh, it's just lovely. Have a listen, it's so nice. Just realised that I'm going to have to type all of this out in editing, so one of the things that I would say about this harmonic minor is that if you start it around the B area, if you start the scale on B and run that sequence of notes, that's going to sound gorgeous. And if you write out that bunch of notes, look, B, C, D sharp, E, F sharp, G, A and B. Now that is exactly the same bunch of notes that are contained within E harmonic minor, but when you start it on a B, something magical happens and you get a different type of scale. And this scale is called, it's got a scary name, it's called a Phrygian dominant. Phrygian dominant. Phrygian dominant. And that is actually, you could write that down as B7 flat 9 or B7 flat 13. But if that makes your brain want to explode, don't worry about it. Just play an E harmonic minor. That's perfect, and it will fit over all of these chords really beautifully. Now here's the cool thing about Autumn Leaves, because look, the next set of chords that I've got is exactly the same as what I've already worked on, and the next set of chords after that is the same as what I've worked on up there. Woohoo! I'm liking this a lot, I can tell you. And look, the next set of chords is pretty much the same, and the last set of chords is the same, so job done. Just by understanding major 2-5-1s and minor 2-5-1s, now I'm empowered to play the entire form of Autumn Leaves and make a really cool solo. Once again, it's not the only thing that you can do. You can spend the rest of your life improving and developing and adding to and making it more complex and building up the complexity. But I'm telling you, this is going to sound awesome. It's going to sound really good, and it's correct and it's accurate, and you're following the chords. It's just perfect. It's a really good way, in my opinion, of moving around. Now the only things that we do have is we've got some chords here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play the root of each one, because apart from this minor 2-5-1 that I've got here, I've only got 6 beats, so I haven't got loads of time to do something. I'm just going to play the root. So now I'm going to play the entire form of Autumn Leaves. I'm going to play one chorus, and I'm going to be mainly sticking to chord tones over the major 2-5-1 or the scale, so either the chord tones of the major 2-5-1 or the scale going up and landing on a chord tone, which is the method that I used before. And over any time I see this minor 2-5-1, I'm going to hit that harmonic minor and listen to how beautiful it sounds. So here we go. Now I'm sure that's going to be a lot of fun typing out all of the notes that I've just played in the titles below, but I'm going to do it, and I hope that's been useful to you. Doesn't it sound gorgeous? That's a completely viable solo. I would be more than happy to play that solo in front of a workshop or a class, or anywhere that would work. That just works. In my opinion, that just works. It sounds really nice, and you can always develop it from there. So I think this is a fantastic way of practicing. Thank you so much, YouTube. I'm just loving it. I'm loving reaching out to people all over the world, and the feedback that I've had has been amazing, and people have bought some saxophones from me and bought me coffees. It's just incredible. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. If you'd like to be part of this ever-growing saxophone family, then please do feel free to buy me a coffee, and if there's content that you'd love to see, then do let me know. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care. Bye.